flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Sam went. The first item on the agenda is outdoor assembly permit application. This is for the annual cricket match that's held at the Island Boatyard. The proceeds go to the ambulance. It's the 10th year we've had it, and Sam Case is going to answer some questions if he comes back. You have the application?
Yeah, I have the application. It's, the game starts at 10 o'clock and then,
The date?
oh, I'm sorry. The 20th, this Saturday. The game starts at 10 a.m. They're just going to kind of play cricket all day. And then the Hoodoo Loungers are playing up at the shipwreck as part of the event for part of the fundraising. And Sam gets back, they'll explain it to us, but it's the same event they've had.
They've had it for the 10 years. It's and a significant fundraiser. They're
It all
between $10,000 and
takes place-
$15,000.
Yeah, it all takes place on the Boatyard property.
Right.
So it's all on private property. All the parking's off street. It's on private property. So in that sense, they don't really need town
I think
resources.
the application probably is mostly for the noise exemption.
Yeah.
The band
Yeah.
afterwards. Do we know where Sam went? Yes. We're ready for you, Sam. That's all right. So Sam, come on up. I explained this, we think it's the 10th annual. It's the major fundraiser for the ambulance corps. You know, it's an all-day event, while everything's on property. Really what we're looking for is a noise exemption. Ed?
No, that's it, really.
Yeah. How many people you usually get? Couple hundred?
Couple of hundred during the day. The fundraiser, like in the evening, I don't know. At the end of the day, I've just gone home.
Yeah, I know.
It's
It's a long day.
yeah.
So on this,
I've never been there.
so on this app, Sam, you don't know when the music starts? And it says 10, but I don't know if
It
that's,
stops at 10.
It ends.
Stops at 10.
It ends at 10 when it starts.
Yeah.
yeah, usually 7 maybe.
Yeah, usually like 7.
7 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because when I did call Mr. Preston, because he's the one who filed the application, and I talked to him about it, and he said the music will stop at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And but I think they start around 7
right.
usually.
And they have a 50-50 raffle, I think.
Mhm.
We end up with a sizable, we end
Exactly.
up with a sizable donation from the cricket people
Right.
during the day, but then
Yes.
he
Yes.
throws the proceeds
Right.
well to us.
Yeah.
After his
Right.
expenses.
That's a nice event. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Great. Sam, thanks very much. And while you're here, I understand Thursday we're starting with our new EMT.
Yes, I heard that, yes.
Yeah. Jack worked out the details with Stony Brook, Southampton.
He announced it was Thursday, he's supposed to be here.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting.
I can't wait to meet him.
Exactly. We all can. Yeah.
It's gonna be a learning experience for everybody.
Right.
They say they got the right person. I hope so. Like I said.
Did Jack have any involvement in the hiring or interviewing or?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh.
Because it's, as they say, we do things differently out here
Exactly.
than the rest of Suffolk County.
Yeah.
But, hopefully it's some veteran,
Right.
not some young guy looking.
Exactly.
For
Yeah.
the adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Maybe he ain't gonna find it. But it's gonna be, I mean, we're all gonna work
It's a
together.
new step. Yep.
We're all gonna work together.
Yeah. Mhm. That's great.
Really.
Yeah, learn from each other.
Yes.
All right. Sam, thank you very much. Thanks for all you do. Okay, next on the agenda is the wastewater project. I asked Joe to come and give us an update where we are with the proposed project, and then we'll give everybody a week to digest the report, and the engineer will come, Pio Lombardo will come next week.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. In 2 weeks to answer any questions.
I'm gonna sit here for the ease of the microphone access. So we, PO, we discussed having him come next week, but you're suggesting.
They're saying there's no meeting.
There's no meeting yet.
Oh,
Meeting on Tuesday.
Gotcha.
For the first time of the year.
Why is it?
Because
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
2 weeks from today. then.
Yeah,
Okay.
the 30th.
Okay, very good. That puts us, okay, so the purpose of me being here today is to really just update the board on the status of the project. We have updated our engineering report, which we would consider now final. What was released back in the early spring was the initial draft report. We then received a number of comments and input from both the board and the community. And those changes have been absorbed and incorporated into this report, mostly pertaining to site selection, capacities, and layouts for treatment and disposal at the particular site. So the report that's available now for the public, it's been available for about 10 days now. It's posted on the town website. Really includes no new developments. It's sort of reflective of the comments and the input that we received during the release and discussion of the draft report. So we shouldn't expect to see anything that's different than what's already been agreed upon. In terms of other progress on the project, we've really pivoted towards taking advantage of the current grant cycle. So we've been working with the town contracted grants writer to take this project, fold it into applications that were either joint applications for other projects within the town or as a sole source. We've applied to, at this stage, both Suffolk County, WQR, IP, county focused WQI, the county's leg of what we do here locally, and also through New York State DEC funding, which will be related in some capacity to the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Now it seems like New York State is going to play the role in facilitating some or all of the funding that's coming through from the federal package. So the details of that aren't really hashed out yet. Some of them maybe just above my pay grade a little bit in complexity, but nonetheless, we've applied for 2 specific sources of funding. If we are awarded them, they would amount to approximately a 75% coverage of the project cost as it's slated now. So the town's burden would be approximately 25% of the construction cost. The other update with regard to the financial aspect of the project is that following the final engineering draft of the project, we do have a contract amendment submitted by Lombardo Associates. That's for scope changes and scope overages from our initial planning phase. And we've applied for funding to cover that contract amendment through local WQI funds. We made a preliminary presentation at the WQI meeting earlier this month. A vote wasn't had, but is rescheduled for a secondary discussion later this week on the 18th. And if awarded, that would cover the cost of the contract changes for all of our design services. So we would effectively, by the end of this year, have construction documents, permits out for review, unlikely approval, but possible. And we would be looking this spring for final word on the grant funding so that we can start planning internally the burden of construction costs for the project.
Great oversight. Just a question that somebody's going to ask you. What happens if we only get one of the 2 or none of the 2? Does the project in fact move forward?
That's a question for the town board. One, I will say that the county grant is order of magnitude lower. You know, it's about 250,000, I believe. Amber might be able to check me on that. Whereas the the DEC grant covers the bulk of what that subsidy would be to get us to the 25%. So certainly, if we could only get one, there's a choice. But we've already submitted those applications. We're hopeful, and we already have a preliminary interview with Suffolk County later this month, where they're looking at all of the applications, and we're attending a meeting where they may ask questions. And not really sure how that goes. I've not done one yet, but that part of the process is in the works already.
And
It's remote. Yeah, it's remote. So all of this year's applicants are invited to the call. And I think the technical review team within the county has everybody then available to ask questions.
Presentations.
And we have people come from the county this week.
We do on Thursday morning. Sarah Lansdale is coming from Suffolk County to visit. And also Irene Donahue from Bridget Fleming's office is bringing a few of her team members to, I think, learn more about the project, partially because of the scale and impact, but also because of the county grant application that we've submitted. So the timing is aligned there. I'd like to have some discussion, but also walk the area. I think learn a little bit more about the pretext to why we're pursuing this project and have a better lay of the land, so to speak. So
My final question is about school. I know the middle school is an integral part of this project. And at the time, there was a time factor in the school in terms of getting this project done. How does that factor in, Joe?
we are pedal to the metal on this to make sure that we don't lose the school as a partner. We've had some discussions a few weeks ago about the school's new role in the project, and that is to facilitate and design their internal components to get to the street, which is where we would pick up. So instead of putting in their own treatment and processing on site, they've just got to figure out now how to get the pipe to the curb, and then we're going to take it from there. So they're already going down that path of meeting with consultants, scoping their own project. So there's good synergy and good overlap in terms of where we both are on the project. There's no magic ball, 8-ball that's going to tell us when or if their system's going to fail, but that's the overarching constraint here in terms of timing.
Very good. Last comment, and I just for sharing with the public here. We were here several days ago, maybe a week ago or so, and we had a couple of community members come in and ask the question, they live in the area. They seem to walk in with definitive questions. They seem to walk out with a smile on their face that you had satisfied and addressed each and every one of those concerns. Could you briefly, in a couple of minutes, just tell us how that meeting went? Because I think it's important that the public understand that you were open to that. People came in, you addressed it, and they left very satisfied with the answers and the responses that they got.
Sure.
I didn't mean to eavesdrop, by the way, but it was just a very positive experience that.
I would share that the overwhelming majority of comments that I receive generally express support for the project in concept and mostly in practice. The overwhelming majority of concerns stem from the details that I think are most aesthetically present for neighbors and the community. Folks want to know, is there going to be a gigantic building that blocks their view, or that is out of character with their community, and I think those are all really valuable questions. And the point is that that's a major consideration at this stage of the project. That now we're looking at those kinds of details to make sure that we have landscape architecture that's consistent with the neighborhood. Not just the island, but with the block and lot where it is. That we have setbacks and operating procedures that are accommodating for the neighborhood. We're aware that this is a mixed area of residential, agricultural, even recreational use. There's some walking paths over there. So those are all the considerations that are going into the design phase. And it's been really helpful to hear what the primary concerns have been. And those are the ones that we've been working to address. So our major objective is to create something that's low impact visually, no impact from an odor standpoint, and then still has complete functionality for all of our environmental and technical needs.
Thank you. That kind of summed it up.
Question? Joe, thanks very much. So 2 weeks we'll have PO here to, I guess we'll do the formal PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, I'm not sure that. Yeah, I'll talk with Pio about how he thinks it's best to present. The PowerPoint is largely consistent with what we already seen. We could update a few slides to represent how we finally landed. I think more.
And maybe some samples.
Yes, and we have, yes, a few photos of that have been distributed around already for when folks have asked specifically. I think this is really a good opportunity for any outstanding questions about the design for folks to ask that. And then we would look to have the town board adopt the final engineering plan through resolution so that we can have that checkpoint of closure with the town board in applying for, grants, updating our applications, and then the contract amendment for design.
And it is on the website. It's available for people to look at.
So that's important, Megan, I just pointed out, it's on the website. And if he could hone in on the changes, I think, because people are very familiar with the original presentation for the most part.
Yep.
But as I think it hone in on that, on the changes, the change of location, and I think that's helpful to people get a better understanding of the new site.
Yep. All right.
Joe, thank you very much.
Is he here in person or Zoom?
It would be my preference that he's here remotely. What are we going to say, remotely or
She wants to.
in person? In the past, it's been helpful to have access to other team members there.
Oh, that's true.
As we go into the design phase, it's helpful to have one of the designers nearby.
Yes.
So I thought that worked well, but if there's a preference,
No,
we
not.
can certainly demand you buy a ferry ticket.
I like the fact that having other people
Mhm.
work for the company. Very familiar with these time phases.
Sometimes the questions won't come up, but if it is a Q&A type thing and someone asks specifics, then we can have the designer, the engineer who laid it out, answer the question if need be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's it for the items on the agenda. We do have a town board meeting tonight at 6, so we'll go around the table
All right, so I have a few things. When the Green Expo is this Saturday from 11 to 3 on the grounds of the Legion Hall. It's the same day as the craft fair and all the other fun things that are happening in the center of town. There's a lot of town groups and committees that are going to be there. We have the CPF, the Comprehensive Plan, CAC, Deer and Tick, Green Options, Taylor's Island, the Water Advisory Committee, Water Quality Improvement Board, the Fresh Pond Neighbors Association, Friends of Trees, Sylvester Manor, and the Shelter Island Recycling Center. Drawdown East End will be there, Group for the East End, Mashamik and the Nature Conservancy, North Fork Environmental Council, Peconic Estuary Partnership, and Peconic Land Trust will all be there with tables, and they'll be available to answer questions and share information. So that's going to be a really great event. You'll be able to give us feedback on the comprehensive plan. So then we also have the last day for the community housing survey is August 21st. So that's Sunday. So if you haven't had a chance to fill out your survey, you can go online and do it. We'll also try to have a stack of them at the table at the Green Expo. So if you want to do it in person and you don't feel comfortable online, then that'll be available. We also just this morning or earlier today received a application for business on town property for Mr. Softy, but we haven't had a chance to actually look at it. So we can't really do anything with it today, but we'll look at it at our next meeting because he was made aware that it's a business on town property at the beach, but so we'll review that next week, just so people know that, yes, we did receive that application.
Run with 5-year-olds, but okay.
That's fair, they're allowed.
And again, normally an ice cream truck is allowed, but we have the legislation that 500 feet from the public beaches.
Right. Yeah, so we can review that at the next meeting. And that's, pretty sure that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim?
Since we're not meeting next Tuesday, I just want to put a reminder out. We're fine tuning the second annual International Overdose Awareness Day. That's rain or shine. It will be held at Fisk Field at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, August 31st. The speakers will address awareness, education, prevention, and treatment. The whole program will go approximately 1 hour from 7 to 8 o'clock. Last year, we had 60 people. We do encourage people that come to bring your own chairs. I will have the library, who is co-sponsoring with the Health and Wellness Alliance, some chairs available there for extra chairs for people that need them. I did talk to Dr. Dolger, cleared the area, filled out a use of the building form, and Dr. Dolger will be attending and speaking as well. So I'm just finalizing that list of speakers with the Alliance, and I'll coordinate with that with our town supervisor. Yesterday, we had 2 meetings that went about 4.5 hours, starting at 5:30. First one was the Water Management Advisory Council. We had a briefing by the Bay Constable. There was a 120-foot yacht in West Neck Harbor on a weekday. It didn't represent a huge problem because there are only 3 or 4 boats there. So the Bay Constable is aware of that, but it's very unusual that we get a boat that size, 120 feet inside West Neck Harbor, especially in the Anchorage area, but it posed no problem and it left well before the weekend. We did have a briefing by Chairman John Needham about the Sapon dock and boat lift. John discussed with Mr. Sapon, the WMACs did not feel that this area was a suitable place for the dock and boat lift due to the potential wind and wave action, as well as the setting a precedent for the establishment of a dock in a pristine beach area that is currently where there are no other docks in that area. Obviously, Mr. Sapon has the right to move forward with the application, and that is what he is choosing to do. So he will be moving forward with that application. We did speak, John also spoke, John meets with a lot of people in between meetings. I spoke with Mr. Hogan, Richard Hogan, at the Andean property. Mr. Hogan reached out to John for some advice that would help ensure additional safety measures for boats that are there at the new dock. His boat had been damaged with a 26-foot inflatable capsized during the recent rough weather at the dock. He is seeking measures that would help him modify the existing dock and was seeking John's input. John gave him some input where he could to help make that a little safer situation. Third one, Daniel Lord Road, John was in contact with the owner of the property directly to the north about the MGM boat that was down on Bayshore Road, and that was something he took care of. Under old business, Brownie dock application, John was in touch with Mr. Brownie's permit facilitator. His name is Chuck Hamilton, concerning the need to meet town code and to have submitted a proper survey of the property. The application was then moved to September 12th meeting, and the facilitator now knows what's required to bring to that meeting or get it submitted to the town clerk's office before then. We did discuss 4 applications. The Labrosi mooring application passed by a 6-0 vote. Currently, Mr. Labrosi is the owner of 3 moorings, which is the max. Is releasing one of the stake and pulley moorings, which is W3113, back to the town. So that is back in, and the town clerk's office should know that.
Where's that?
That one is down on the end of, no, down at Manatee, down at Manatee, 313. Yeah, and is requesting a new stake and pulley mooring just north of the C3178 in Cockles Harbor. The new coordinates were assigned and they located in a desirable spot just to the north by several feet of where he requested. That passed. Slaughterback dock application was tabled. John will be in contact with Mr. Herman, who is the representative for that dock, and invited him to the September 12th meeting. We need to look at the setbacks to the north and the length of the dock. Currently, the proposal does not meet, it does meet the town code, but there's a concern about chalking. And these issues can be worked out at the next meeting. So that was tabled. On the third application, the Sully mooring application passed 6-0 with new grid coordinates, and I gave them to the town clerk's office with the new coordinates. Number 4, the Wilcox mooring application passed 5-0. And the reason it wasn't 6-0 is George, one of the members, left the meeting early because he had a conflict. The new grid coordinates I also provided for the town clerk's office this morning. Note there was some discussion regarding the residency requirement due to the ownership of the boat. You have to see the ownership letter from the brother attached to the application. And I guess that we will talk about that a little bit more. Christina, we're thinking about, looking into that a little bit more to make sure that, in fact, that the boat is registered to somebody here in this on Shutter Island. We did talk at the final thing was, BJ had sent copies of a cover letter to the chairman, John Needham, to the request and the rest of the committee explaining the role of the comp plan task force and the possibility of the development of a new chapter dedicated to waterways/shoreline. The committee chairman stated he would like, it would be difficult for him to spend additional time on this task, but was open to some additional measures to accomplish the task. PJ spent numerous hours this past weekend reviewing both the 94 and 2008 draft of the comprehensive plans, the adopted 94 and the draft of the 2008. He believes that a lengthy and in-depth discussion with the WMAC is necessary to determine if this is correct. After some discussion with the committee members last night, it was agreed that the committee would support such efforts, beginning with the topic of moorings. The committee agreed that they will divide the topics into several sections and welcome the challenge of helping the possibility of writing a new chapter for the updated comprehensive plan. I'd like to thank BJ for that extra work that you put into that. I think that there was a great outline for us to follow. We're not starting from scratch. So, a lot of work went into that. Thank you very much. And that was it on that committee report. On the CAC, very simple. We met after that. 5 of our members of the 7 were there. Dan Clark was on his honeymoon, an actual honeymoon this time. They did take one when they first got married, but they're all for the honeymoon. So we discussed the same 48 Lake Drive. It was approved. The application was approved 5-0 with the following 3 recommendations. Number 1, staying slightly away from the wetlands if possible. Number 2, when rebuilding the steps off the porch, use environmentally friendly or approved materials. Number 3, provide a 10-foot buffer on the western/wetland property line. No, this is the old Vinnie Novak house, by the way, just to remind everybody, that was next to the town landing at Fresh Pond. But those were the 3 recommendations. I kind of relived that thing about going back to the Novak property. Remember, the neighbor to the north of him was objecting. That was really the reason that sale never went through, because of the objection there. And then I was told last night, by the way, the house was flipped by your father. I actually mentioned that the house was flipped and the guy never stayed there anyhow. So, couldn't live with it. So,
That one, move the septic if possible. That's a big ask. I mean,
well, it's
It'll
slightly,
depend on setback.
it is.
Depends on setbacks.
How do I explain that? Very carefully, because there's a tight fit in there. So that's a given. We then talked about the 3 Oak Tree Lane application, the application down near Shell Beach on the right-hand side as you go out on Oak Tree Lane. It was approved 5-0 with the following 8 recommendations. Number 1, all construction vehicles parked, and this is a biggie because of the property size and you can't park on the road because nobody could get down it. Parked in the northwest corner of the property, which is just off Conic Avenue and tucked in behind Oak Tree Lane. That's the area of the property that is not being built onto the very end. So all the construction will happen further south of that, and they'll work their way north and keep totally off Oak Tree Lane. Number 2, all construction needs to be away from the 75-foot vegetated buffer. Matt was there last night, Matt Sherman, and currently the only thing that's over the 75-foot vegetated area is a corner of the roof eave, about 18 inches or 1.5 feet into that buffer. But the request was to keep out of the 75-foot vegetated area. It's a very tight envelope there. The good news is everything is coming out of that 75-foot, including the pool. Number 3, no dewatering for installation of the pool or the house or the accessory structures. Number 4, provide a pool cover for the new pool, which is all part of this. And Matt is totally aware of all of these and agreed to all of these. Number 5, a 5-gallon per minute well pump needs to be installed. Matt Sherman said in this particular area, and I quoted him, perfectly good sense. I mean, it was perfect sense to require that in this given area. Number 6, part of the bulkhead, which, when people went down there and inspect, a lot of the bulkhead had been replaced with the new plastic bulkheads. There's about a 100-foot middle section that's wood that's starting to fall apart. So the committee asked Matt if he would go back in with the owners and ask, well, why not? When you're doing this construction, it's a long bulkhead of probably 400 plus feet. Why not replace that middle section now while you're doing the construction there? Number 7, during construction, the use of environmentally friendly materials is recommended. And number 8, try to encourage the capture of 10 to 15% of rainwater to a cistern to help in the topping off the swimming pool, which Matt said he would look into and talk about with the owner. We did talk about the status of articles that we're putting in the Shelter Island Reporter. CAC, Roxanne is our new writer, does a marvelous job in that area. And we agreed that every 3 months we would put in a quarterly article. These topics will include water conservation, suggested plantings for homes, the use of disuse of herbicides and pesticides, as well as other timely topics. Articles will coincide with the appropriate time of the year: winter, spring, summer, and fall. Information on Green Expo, we are going to be attending. All 4 of our 5 members were there. In fact, all 5 members that were there last night. We'll take turns at the table between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. The status of tree disease on the island is being looked in by Dan Clark. Dan was on his honeymoon, so we put it on the September meeting. Our next meeting is September 12th at 7:30. We will look at the new applications we just received a day or 2 before this meeting, the Towson, the church, and the Crescent/Serpentine Drive application. That's it, there.
Amber?
Yes. Suffolk County had announced that there was $25 million available in opioid grant funding. So at the last capital planning and grants committee meeting, which Jim had reported on last week, we had Lucille Berger come in and we were doing a little bit of brainstorming. The deadline for applications is August 22nd. So very tight timetable. So in order to apply for, I think in the first round, we needed to look at what were some out of the box programs that we might be able to do something with. So Jen Mezziano and Chief Reed and I met yesterday, today's Tuesday, to see if there was anything, because as police chief tied into, what types of, things the police department comes across and, resources that they're utilizing with respect to opioid use and things like that. So a couple of ideas that came out of that discussion was that there is a drug task force at the county level that we don't normally send a police officer to. They have something once a week. If we had some funding, chief would be willing to, rearrange schedules. They would overtime, so we would put in for overtime reimbursement for that kind of funding. So we're looking at that. So Jen is going to take that to see, that would be about $60,000 when you include fringe benefits and all of that. The other thing that we talked about, we don't know whether or not Lucille has time in her schedule to expand and add an extra day a week. Part of what the grant funding is supposed to be used for is prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery. So prevention, harm reduction, that the drug task force kind of has that focus. So if we can sort of hit it on that end, that would be good, get the drugs out of the community. And then if we could increase the social worker 1 day a week, and when someone, does have an issue, arrested, brought into the court system, if we have a local resource that we can work on the treatment part of it. So we are putting in $60,000 for the drug task force, maybe $40,000 for Lucille, but we have to find out whether or not she has bandwidth or whether or not we bring in somebody who has a very specific focus on this to work with the police and the drug court on that. So that grant application is due on Monday. So Jen is going to get that pulled together for us. It's 100% reimbursable grant. So if we get the money, then we can use the funds for that. So there isn't an additional town cost. After that meeting, Jen and I then rolled into a meeting with Laura, Courtney, and Rich Bova from Suffolk County Water Authority to discuss the Western Water grant applications that are going in, specifically the WIA grant, which is due, I believe, September 9th. It's a lot to pull together, but the push is going to be on to get it in for that date, the September 9th deadline. We have a meeting on September 7th, so we'll be able to do resolution submitting that grant. That Southern Connecticut Water Authority wants to keep pushing ahead with that. One, because we want to, if possible, give relief to the Western Water ratepayers for what we can, as well as they on capital improvements. If there's anything that's required by, I believe the WIA grant is a state grant. So if there's anything the state wants with respect to, minorities and women business, that we really have the right people in place so that they set up the projects and the capital improvements so that we are eligible to tap into this money, have awarded. So good news, we're moving forward, for the couple of items there. And that's all that I have.
DJ?
Yeah, yesterday, Water Advisory Committee, busy agenda. We didn't get to it all. It was just too much. I think they need a second meeting every month for a few months because we've asked a lot of them to review. So John Hallman was there. It was good to see him back again in his old seat. Well, not quite his old seat, but in the room, and spoke about the original rationale behind the geothermal moratorium and the irrigation systems regulations and whatnot. And it was informative. It was good to hear from him. Of course, the WIC has not come to any kind of conclusion on these, so there's nothing really to report except that he was there and we were grateful. There is a library presentation at 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 18th, this Thursday, by the WAC. It's Shelter Island Water, a conversation about our future. Peter Grant leading the discussion with Andrew Chapman and Ken Peischer. That, folks, is an all-star cast. I mean, if you want to know about Shelter Island Water, you really should tune in, or I think it's available on Zoom and in person, but I'm not sure about that. Information at the library website, I'm sure.
What's the date on it?
Thursday, the 18th. And we have a special WQI meeting at 6, I think. So hopefully we can at least get to an hour of it. It's at 5. Yeah.
It's through the library?
Yes.
Yeah. And Green Expo, Mike's already mentioned that we have a table there. WAC has a table there. And finally, Doug Sherrod, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, Doug S. Sherrod, presented about hydrologic modeling. Very interesting, very early stages, but he's taken it upon himself to do an investigation about modeling the aquifer. And there's a lot of threads to pull in from the history of the WAC's done a lot of work. Town has quite a few studies that are not that old. So, so there's threads to pull together, and he's only spoken to what I can tell, one consulting company. So early stages, but it might be coming to a budget near you.
Involved in those discussions?
So, oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they did a preliminary talking about funding, about cost, which will make you very unhappy. And I did WQI last week. And then CPF was yesterday too. Again, budget process seems to be dominating a lot of our committees, so they're well underway. It's feet on the ground for CPF in terms of determining what the budget should be for next year for stewardship. So the committee really kind of pulls together and gets out there to have a look at what needs to be done and dreams and wants and needs. I guess 3 different categories. There's that, and I won't steal your thunder in terms of coming before you for a proposal at our next work session. And that's about it.
Okay. Stephen?
I just have a real quick update. As the board's aware, certain groups have approached the town board requesting information on certain topics, and we asked for expediency for them to email the topics in so we can collate them, get them together, and then use our time efficiently to make sure everyone who is interested in certain topics would be available. And also we could address their concerns. So Jan, on behalf of the Friends of Cockles Harbor, Inc., at the board's invitation, sent me an email last Tuesday. The email included issues that FOCH is concerned about. They include TDRs, the proposed wastewater treatment facility, and the comp plan. As the TDRs, the TDR consultant that we will be hiring, I believe at the August 30th work session is going to give a presentation to the town board on, I term it TDRs for dummies, or just a general overview on the TDR process. As to the wastewater treatment facility, Joe just gave the board an update. And as he made you aware, in 2 weeks, the other engineer will be here to give a more formal presentation. So by all means, they should attend and view that. And lastly, to the comprehensive plan, it's not within the board's purview at this point. It's with the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee. They have their own meeting schedule, and they should avail themselves of that opportunity to participate in those meetings. By all means, once it gets to the level that it's going to be presented to the board, we'll have more information. But at this time, we have just as much information as they do as far as the comprehensive plan. The liaison's a little more, of course, but that's the proper venue at this time. No other group has reached out to me other than Friends of Cockles Harbor.
Okay, so in response, the TDRs will be addressed at the work date,
8:30.
8 to 8:30 work session.
Correct.
As will the wastewater, the follow-up from Joe's presentation today.
Yes. And obviously, if there are more questions that they have that arise out of them, and you've made it clear that they can arrange to have a meeting with Joe Fenor. They can have a meeting with up to 2 of the town board members to go into more detail. And that's, again, your doors are always open. And I know BJ has been meeting with a lot of people. So it's, don't think that this is the only venue and you're limited to 3 minutes. You could talk as long as you want. You come to meetings. My door's open as well.
Mhm.
And the comp plan, it might be not specific issues of what goes into the comp plan, but how we're approaching the comp plan. So maybe that's a discussion that someone should take up. I don't know.
What do you mean how it works?
Well, it's Megan and I. And, it's the idea that we're gathering information. We're gathering a lot of information from the community. We've just started the workshop process. We've been focused on gathering committee level information from volunteers who are knowledgeable. And that's also just begun. And our view is that we do this information gathering, that we get together, with the public on a regular basis, starting last month, every month, if not twice a month, to do workshops, get their input, and have a package, at which point bring in a consultant. And that's the process that we're using.
Yeah. We spend so much time tracking down different people for information. It would be a waste of a consultant's time to send them out, hit up this committee, talk to that person, so you can get information on this. When we already know the people, it's easier for us to get a response. Then once we have a rough draft document, then we can bring in a consultant to edit it, to make sure that it meets all the points that it needs to meet, make sure we're not missing anything significant. This is really just like the light work.
Right. And we hope to save the town a significant amount of money as well.
And the grant cycle starts in January again. So we can apply in January for grants for the comprehensive plan that we don't qualify for right now.
Yeah.
So you have a monthly meetings?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
workshops, which is.
We just set up monthly workshop meetings for the public and on top of our monthly CPAC meeting. So we're going to have workshop followed by a CPAC meeting, workshop followed by a CPAC meeting every month.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the opportunity has a venue.
Yes.
Ask questions.
Yes. And at those workshops, you'll be able to ask questions on any previous chapter as well as the new chapters that we're rolling out.
And the workshops are pre-built. We're not doing 3 minutes. We're not doing that. We're just,
Right. It's open discussion.
The first one was, I thought, terrific. We got some great.
No, it's great. And it's not only ask questions, it's what you would want to see in the comprehensive
Right.
Your-
And there's an online comment section where you can go, you can choose any chapter in the plan, even chapters that haven't been drafted yet. And you can put in information that you want to see in the plan, information you think would be important, maybe changes that you would recommend, things for us to consider, and then that gets submitted to us. So far, we've received 14 comments. Some of them are on chapters that we haven't drafted yet. So those comments will go into those chapters when we get to them. But that's a very easy way to get your information into the plan. You can also email us.
Yeah. So I just wanted to sort of make that a broader answer,
Yeah,
to Mr. Sudol.
okay. That's all I have.
Hey, Dottie, you have anything?
Amber.
Amber? Anybody in the office?
No, I'm okay.
course.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Julia, before we go to the public?
Yeah, just real quick, your microphones are still really not ideal for Zoom.
All of them or which ones? All of them?
Whoever is speaking, it's Amber's was particularly bad. Jim Colligan's was particularly bad all day. So you need to work on it a little bit more.
All right, we need to work.
No, right now.
Maybe we gotta move it close. They too far away.
just in and out?
It sounds like you're underwater.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's quality.
Stevens was also very bad.
Okay, all right, we'll work on that. Thank you. Julie, anything on your end?
Just Stevens was also very difficult to hear.
Okay,
The things blocking that, they have to be raised up.
They're
so that-
supposed to be more sensitive than that, but maybe,
I mean, like, because the computer.
all right, we'll work on it. We'll see.
Except I've got a straight shot.
Yeah,
Something
all right,
quiet.
Sandra?
I have the same comment about the audio. Unless the library has changed the time for the water meeting, it's at 5:30, not 5. Because
thank you.
I got an email this morning, because I'm on their distribution list and it's always been 5:30. So somebody may want to confirm that with them. And I will also just say, I don't know whether it's going to be hybrid, but if you plan to attend in person, they like you to register so they know how many chairs to put out. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Recording.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Recording sign.
I was going to say,
Okay.
okay, room too.
Just a couple minor points though.
You have to come up,
Oh, to
please.
the podium.
There's no microphone. No.
There's one right next to the podium. A little frisbee.
Hi. No. Just a couple of things that Jim said, minor. I think Hogan's issue was not Pantheon. I believe it was the dock at
By South.
Sherwood.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
That's where his boat had an issue.
Okay.
And then regarding 3 Oak Tree Lane, you said something about recharge of rainwater for the purposes of pool filling.
Yes.
Is that an okay thing to do now? I thought it was.
Well, not at the detriment of recharging the ground.
Well-
That's why they were aiming for a 10 to 15%. That was negotiable, I think. He commented.
Because up to now, I thought that was not allowed.
WAC to look into that, James, because again, we have a lot of cisterns that are coming with off-island water and look at the possibility of collecting that water ourselves.
I mean, I think it's a great idea, but up to now, it hasn't been allowed.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Gordon?
It's going to be brief. Okay. We only have 3 minutes, but I was sort of startled today to see on the town board agenda, okay, a resolution concerning CPF money, okay, for creation of a TDR program from PW Grosser Consultants. And I guess what I'm asking, okay, I think the CPF committee has not been aware or up to date of how funds can be used or are considered to be used in a resolution that's going to be talked about this afternoon. Okay, I guess what I'm asking the board, okay, is if you could table that and bring our committee up to date. As an advisory committee, we know we only make advisory positions, okay? But I think it would only be courteous that the committee was well informed on what was going on with the community preservation funds. And that basically, that's the statement I want to make, okay? So all we're asking for is to have some communication. So I'm just asking that if you could hold that until our committee is informed. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill? Good?
All right.
Okay, anybody else in the audience? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.